The Renters Reform Bill is a Tory proposal that would do the bare minimum to improve the lives of renters. It doesn't promise rent controls or the mass building of social housing, things which might actually make renting more affordable, but it would get rid of no-fault evictions, making renting just that little bit more secure. Yet, even with these very modest goals, the bill has still come up against vociferous opposition from Tory backbenchers, and you'll never guess, this will come as a huge surprise to you, many of those Tory backbenchers opposing the Renters Reform Bill are themselves landlords. And this is the basis of a great story in the newspaper. So the headline, Renters Reform Bill, Inside the Rebellion Over New Renting Laws Led by Tory Landlords. And we can go to the body of the article. They say this: among those considering voting against the Renters Reform Bill are believed to include high-profile Tories such as Jacob Rees-Mogg, who lists rental income from properties in Somerset and London among his entries in Parliament's Register of Members' Interests. Kevin Hollinrake, the former chairman of national estate agency chain Hunters, is also thought to be a potential rebel. How curious! These landlords and estate agents who don't want regulation to protect renters. I also have some great quotes from landlord Tory MPs. So these are three separate landlord Tory MPs who all want to remain anonymous. At the moment, we have a government that's adopting all Jeremy Corbyn housing policies, except we're not building any more homes. Why should landlords be forced to accept that market forces don't apply to them when we're not committed to building more homes to ease prices? It's not the fault of landlords that the price of renting is going up. It's the fault of not enough homes being available to either buy or rent. Costs of being a landlord are much higher now, so why shouldn't landlords be able to charge more and rent their properties to people at the market rate to cover their increased costs? A couple of things to say about this. I actually agree we need to increase the supply of rental housing to get the price of rent down. But there's something inconsistent here, which is basically saying landlords are increasing rent because costs are going up. But then you say, oh, landlords are increasing rent because there's a shortage. Which one is it? Are you just taking advantage of a shift in the market, which is so saying we're going to jack up rents because we know that demand is up and supply is down? That's what they're actually doing. And then he's pretending that this is because of costs. The price of rent isn't really determined by the cost of landlords. It's determined by landlords saying we will charge the highest amount we can possibly charge. The idea that it's based on their costs, I think, is a little bit ridiculous. And I think this anonymous landlord, we won't be able to challenge him because he's anonymous, is trying to have it both ways. Let's go to a comment from a separate landlord, another Tory MP who rents out residential properties. They said this: there is a significant number that have issues with the bill and I remain sceptical about it. The best way to bring rents down is to build more homes and make it easier for people to get on the housing ladder. We now understand the bill may have been delayed and some of us are hopeful that this means Michael Gove is willing to listen to the concerns among people like me, i.e. landlords who are also MPs for the Tory party. I'm not entirely sure why it's been delayed, but whatever the reason, we now have a chance to ensure the bill does not introduce overburdensome restrictions on landlords who are key in any housing market. God, imagine putting a restriction on landlords being able to evict single mothers and families at 2 months' notice for, when they've been paying the rent on time and they haven't done anything wrong. That's the basis of what a no-fault eviction is. Our final anonymous landlord: punishing landlords is not going to increase the stock of rental housing. Indeed, it is more likely to reduce it as landlords sell up. I do have an interest in this topic, of course, but anyone who is a landlord will understand the market more than someone who is not. Aaron Bastani: landlords understand the rental market more than anyone, so we should let them decide on laws when it comes to renting.
I mean, there are also millions of people called renters who are very acquainted with the rental market in this country. I mean, they understand what it's like to be a consumer in this market far more than a landlord. So I think that's quite an irrational logic, frankly. We've had in this country since 2008, this has been a Goldilocks era for landlords. It's been a wonderful time to be a landlord. You've had virtually 0% interest rates. And frankly, you could just bump up rent every year. And you could bump it up by more than the base rate of inflation. Inflation generally, until quite recently, was averaging 3-4%. It was hitting generally the Bank of England's target of 2%. Sometimes it was lower than that, sometimes higher. Rent increases would be significantly above that, 5-10%. I know, having lived in London for a very long time, it'd be very normal to have an annual rent increase of 10%. Why? Well, that's just the market, mate. Sorry. Like it or lump it. But the cost of lending for you is no higher than it was. In fact, it may have been lower. So they've had a wonderful time, and the minute they've got a few slight difficulties and their assets aren't going up in value 15% a year, and they can't just, increase rent by more than the base rate of inflation that we have to pay for everything else. Apparently housing is different. They start whining and complaining. And these are not just random landlords, like you say. It's the most powerful people in the country. We have 650 legislators in this country in the House of Commons. They are the most powerful people in this country, fundamentally. If you get a majority of those people to vote on an issue, that then becomes statute, it becomes law. We'll have to abide by it. And they're whinging and whining and moaning. And like you say, about things like a no fault eviction. The idea that you can be evicted. You sign a contract. Michael, this is crazy. They're meant to be capitalists. They're meant to believe in contract. You sign a contract for 12 months and they say after 3 months, sorry, you need to go. Sorry. How's that a contract? Their margins are shrinking. It is no longer a machine to make money. My heart bleeds. Oh no, I'll have to sell up and maybe do something like start a business which employs people and creates value in the wider economy. Oh my God, people didn't have to do that for thousands of years. So I really don't have any sympathy with those landlords. But like you say, there is an important adjunct here, Michael, which is that as landlords sell and you get more owner-occupiers buying those properties, and of course we want more owner-occupiers, it's not a bad thing, but that means density goes down, there's less supply, which means rents go up, because of course we're not building either. That is a major problem. So these idiots, these greedy, money-grabbing Tory parasites are at least right about that. We do need to be building a lot more homes. There is no solution to the rental crisis without that.
Unfortunate thing is, because these MPs are remaining anonymous, these ones saying, the issue is supply, we need to build more houses, it's not about regulations. We have no idea if these are the same Tory MPs who sort of try and destroy any chance of having planning reform and sort of stopping NIMBYs, stopping any houses but getting built. So I can very much imagine these are the same Tory MPs who say, no, we don't want to build any social housing. No, we don't want to build any houses in our area, in my constituency, but also don't regulate me as a landlord because the issue is supply.